Welcome back to the Mayner Leadership Show. I'm Desi Mayner. This is Jeremy Klein. Today we're going to get right to it. The only mindset that a leader needs to conquer, to win, to be victorious, to be the leader that everyone wants, everyone dreamed of. If you're a business owner, if you're an operator, if you're a supervisor, a VP, a director, even a manager, like this is for you. So the only way to improve mindset, right, is one, to be self-aware, to be self-reflective. We talk about that all the time.
Yeah.
That should be a slogan of ours. Self-awareness is a superpower. But also, after we are self-aware, we need to also be working on challenging it and finding new ways to strengthen it, finding people, books, podcasts, whatever it is, to continue to dial that in. Kind of the iron sharpens iron, but only if there's friction. Right. So that's the challenge part, is where we got to start doing it. The must-have mindset of every leader is ownership. Now, Jeremy, you tell me, give me your 30-second kind of overview of like what is ownership.
Well, it could be in anything. When you say ownership, people are like, well, I don't own the company. I'm an executive.
Yeah.
I'm a leader.
That's
I'm
always
an
first
employee.
response. Yeah.
I'm a sales manager. Ownership is everything. If you're involved in it, then you should take ownership in any part of your role. Mm-hmm. Well, I don't have stock options. My name's not on the building. Right, but you are part of that vision. And so I know you're going to get to this, but how you apply ownership to that mentally, how I can take ownership of something when it has nothing to do with me on the forefront. How do I relate that and say, man, I have ownership as the CEO of my family. I have ownership of CEO over my department. And really look at now what that means to me is, well, I'm responsible for that.
Right.
It's a responsibility.
We're going to dig into that responsibility. I'm going to even go as far as this and say, you know, if right here, even at this part, this moment, we talk, I mean, Webster says that basically the state of possessing. Right? But if you don't think you can latch on to that concept of what Jeremy was just talking about, you're probably in the wrong job. You're probably in the wrong company. You're probably in the wrong role. And like that sucks. That's difficult. That's hard to face. But if you can't connect, like we talked about why, I think we episode 1, if you can't connect your why to that vision, like you have a bigger problem than mindset.
Yep.
You have a functional problem of what you're doing and what you're using or spending your time. Like if you can't latch on to this ownership portion of the mindset, I would say you're spending your time, not investing it.
Absolutely. And you do a self-check, right? We always say that, self-evaluate and take a look. And you might be thinking, well, I don't know. I think I might have ownership, or how do I know? I mean, if you have it in you, ultimately you know. That's like number one. But number two, take a look at, am I, being lazy? Am I making excuses? Am I blaming everybody except for myself?
Yeah.
Even though you're in my department and you could have done something wrong, it still comes back to me.
Yes.
If I'm not pointing the blame here, or if I'm just like, man, I feel in my state and time where I'm at right now, I'm just stuck. I'm in a rut. I'm just not happy.
The word rut, yeah.
Ultimately, and we've said this many times, something Simon Sinek has coined, like you deserve to be happy and fulfilled in the place that you spend the vast majority of your time.
Yeah.
So if my satisfaction is low and I'm kind of languishing, that's like red alert number one of, man, maybe I don't have ownership.
Yeah, and you're honing in on it right there. Let's give us some tools to identify this problem. So number one is what Jeremy just said, is if you're seeing low job satisfaction. We talk about achievement and fulfillment. If you're noticing that morale is low, that's how you know. You know that's a problem, right? People constantly looking for shortcuts. Maybe it's you, maybe it's somebody on your leadership team, but always looking for the short way. A lot of times we talk about the unsexy work. Of pounding the pavement. Some people call it the grind, whatever you want to call it. But there's a lot of unsexy work that comes with leadership and building a company and all those good types of things.
Yeah, I don't want to do the mundane, routine, boring stuff that's going to make me money, that's going to further me ahead because it's worked. I'm just stuck. I want to do something new.
Yeah.
And I'm just trying to not only do something new, I'm trying to tweak the right thing to do and save me some time and actual work. I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah. Another one is when you're sitting in a leadership meeting and everyone's looking around for somebody to blame about that problem, about that failure.
Yeah.
Is that you? Is that me? I got my guy. Did you get your guy? What happened there? Right? So a lot of pointing of the finger. People are resistant to change. Whether it's needed or where it's good, they'll still resist. That's another kind of telltale sign. One of the ones that kind of call it a pet peeve of mine is when people are more interested in their personal interests and things like that than they are the collective goal focus of the company, of the organization. And then another one is complaining and gossiping. I know even when we're on calls or we're in trainings, we'll get to the point where we're like, you know what, this feels like gossip. So why don't we bring John in here?
Yep.
Maybe we need some productive conflict. Maybe we need an apology, maybe whatever it is. But when you start to hear that complaining, that gossip, you have a problem of ownership mindset.
Yeah. It's like the misery loves company. And just a side note to that, guys, just know, they're not going to be part of the solution or the problem. So ultimately, you're around a group of alcoholics at the bar complaining that you're drinking.
It's a great analogy.
And there's another thing, too, is it's so much easier to criticize and complain than it is to actually lead.
Yes.
So it's harder. It's harder to have these mindsets and to look and say, am I blaming myself? Do I take ownership? If I don't have ownership, I can easily say, well, that's him, and here's why. Let me tell you. That's super easy to do instead of really trying to dig in and focus on owning that.
Yep. And the last telltale sign is just people being unwilling to step up.
Taking initiative.
Take initiative. A new project, a new directive, anything like that. Just, it's crickets when we say who wants to take the lead on this. And, maybe we can insert some funny cricket noises right there. Those are some of the problems. That's the way to tell if you have this going on with you, with your company, with your leaders, with your team in general. What is ownership? Okay? Simply put, it's not making excuses, it's not blaming others, and it is owning the problems. Owning all of the problems. And we don't say all of the results, because when it comes to the results, you actually want to empower the team.
Right.
Right? And I love this one because I was an offensive lineman. Right? So a lot of the times when somebody was scoring a touchdown, my face was in the dirt. And I didn't even know. I just had to hear it, right? So this is what I'm talking about of being an offensive lineman leader. And what I mean by that is you're going to own the problems. As soon as the quarterback gets sacked or we don't gain 5 yards, guess whose fault it is? Offensive line all day. Right? But guess whose job it is or who's responsible for the touchdown? Usually it's the quarterback or the offense or whatever.
Yeah.
Leadership is the exact same thing. You have to always own the problem, but then when the result comes that you're happy with, that is empowering the team, becomes more important than you taking the ownership of the result. Right? You have to let the team own the result, you own the problem and the failure.
That's good.
Because the ownership is intrinsic. It's inside. It has to be, you have to be aligned with your mission in life, which is, you hear me talking passionate right now. It's because I was born to do this. When you align like that, it's like the movie Miracle.
Okay.
After they win, what does coach do? Does he do it? He doesn't do this and go crazy with the team. He sneaks back into the tunnel all by himself, and he does this
just crazy,
thing, right?
Yeah.
All by himself. It's very similar. I'm a hunter, so when I catch, and a fisherman, when I catch a big fish or when I kill a big deer, I'm by myself, but the celebration is just as sweet.
Right.
Right. Good. So, and that's what that intrinsic, that motivating thing is that we're talking about. That's much deeper than saying, "Yeah, we won, we hit top revenue. That's on me." No. That's the team. Right? And that's a big difference. And also, that can be hard at times, but usually you also won when the team won. So it creates kind of that good snowball effect.
Yeah, so that leads into pointing the thumb at yourself rather than pointing the
Yes.
finger at everybody else.
I love it.
Right? And so we're not saying, woe is me, I'm taking all the problems onto just dump it on me. No, when I say that I'm to blame on this, now who's responsible to find a solution? If I say you're to blame, I've abdicated, I've given up any responsibility because it's his fault, it's his problem. I'll cheer you on if you win, but if I say, I'm the person that's put in charge here, I'm the guy that has to lead this team, it's on me. This project failed, this didn't happen properly, this decision was made, it didn't bring us the results we wanted. Now I can go back to the drawing board and say, okay, what can we do? Let's find a solution now instead of blaming and just focusing on the problem.
And that's the difference between having responsibility and commitment to the mission versus, we're trying to point the finger, trying to point the blame, not owning it. And it's kind of backwards because people take it differently. Like you're thinking, oh man, if I own that failure, people are going to think that I'm a failure.
Right.
And it's like the complete opposite. They'll look around and be like, oh. And when Bobby's sitting over here and, he's a manager, but you're a supervisor, and Bobby totally screwed up, and he starts to talk and you say, actually, that was on me. I'm the one that gave that to Bobby. That's on me. That's my fault. Right? And me and Bobby are going to handle this. We're going to fix it together.
Yeah.
What do you think just happened in Bobby's head that he now thinks of you as a leader and that you just took that ownership and you owned it, you're responsible for it? He's going to run through a wall for you.
Yeah, being that open with him.
Yeah, right there. And taking just that responsibility and commitment, it changes everything. And when we talk about point the thumb, not the finger, so that was from an old football coach of mine. And we used to say that all the time. You got a thumb and a finger for a reason. You can point them both. It's your choice to choose. It's your choice. And he said, always choose the thumb because that goes right back at you. Right? So this is my fault. And we say that all the time here. Like even if it's like way outlandish with a client, with whatever the situation is, I always will ask you, I'll ask Cole, I'll ask Courtney, I'll say, what if this was our fault? If it is our fault, let's just say it is our fault, then what are we going to do?
Yep.
Let's assume it's our fault so that we can get better. Because if not, then, oh, that sucked.
Yeah.
What are we going to do now? It's like, no, we can't learn anything from that. But if it is our fault, we can learn from it. Right? So one of the ways, when we say, like, how do we do this? One of the ways to do this as a leader is being transparent, being vulnerable. Oh my gosh, those are the two scariest words ever, right? I just swore. I just cussed on the podcast, right? Transparency and vulnerability tend to be extremely scary for a leader. But you got to put it out there so that your team knows, so that your people know, so that they understand you, so that you can be empowered and show that you're responsible and show that you're committed, versus having a wall up, being guarded and not letting anyone in.
Yeah.
Guess what they're going to do? Same thing. Same exact thing.
Well, and it's, the phrase easier said than done is a phrase for a reason.
Yep.
And this is such a hard thing to learn. It's one of those things that I think all leaders know. Like, I need to be open with my team.
Yeah.
If I screwed up, rewind that. If I had one of my reps or one of my team members or directors and I knew they screwed up, I wouldn't want excuses. I would want them to fall on the sword, own the problem, and come to me. However, when it gets to here, pointing the thumb, that's super hard. Because all of the what ifs in your mind start to go. What if they don't think I'm a leader? What if they don't think I'm competent? What if that shows weakness? What if I'm the boss. I shouldn't make mistakes.
Right.
I'm never at fault. But you hit it on the head, Desi. It's the exact opposite. When you're like, man, that was me. My bad.
Yep.
I'm going to own this because it's my fault. And even though you did some of the action, it's my responsibility to make sure that you're prepared and that this doesn't take place. And man, that's my bad. Even showing up late. You're the guy and you're in charge of the meeting and you show up 15 minutes late. Well, you're the boss. You can just expect that, right?
Yeah.
Fashionably late, power move, whatever you want to call it. what if you humbled yourself and said, you know what, that's on me. I value your time. I respect your time. I'm super sorry. The trust level or the trust meter that might have been here on those things just shot up.
Yeah.
And it again, without experiencing that, it's so hard to comprehend unless you just put yourself out there.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. So let's give them some examples, some tips, some ways to tell if we have good ownership. So first one is health. I mean, that's how you know that you're owning your own life, your own body, your own emotions, you know, your diet, your fitness, things like that. That's a quick sign right there. Now, I don't mean you got to be, you know, up on stage flexing for a competition, but just, you know, do you have yourself together? Do you have yourself together? Another one's education.
Yeah.
Formal, informal. The informal side is kind of a huge wave right now because it's like books, podcasts, digital courses. I mean, we're fanatics about it. Right? You love the books. I love the podcasts and the digital courses, the YouTubes and things like that, but everyone learns differently. And then we actually feed each other with that. So education, like we always ask, hey, what are you learning? Right? And it's like if someone doesn't have a good answer to that question, then like you have a problem. You have an ownership problem.
Yeah. Well, and you can see that we've looked at how to tell if I don't have ownership.
Yeah.
Low job satisfaction. I'm just kind of languishing around. Versus, man, I got to focus. My mind's focused. My body's focused.
Yep.
I am learning. It doesn't matter. Like we learn, that's not just business. It's not just growth. Right? We're learning all sorts of things because, man, I want to see in what ways can I sharpen my skill set, but also how do I keep my mind alert so that, taking ownership, should situations like this come down the road,
you're ready.
I'm prepared. I'm ready.
You're ready. Yep. Another one is if you have a leader who's making decisions, owning them, and holding themselves accountable to them, bingo. Right? How to do it, make decisions, hold yourself accountable to those decisions, and ask other people to hold you accountable to those decisions as well. That's kind of even another layer. Always looking for ways to improve. Always taking on new challenges. Right? So those are the same, but also slightly different. Right? Finding ways to improve. What book am I reading? What mentor do I have? And then finding new challenges. You know, I'm going to try something brand new. I built a website.
Yeah.
Like, my name's Desi and I built a website. What?
Yeah. Crazy,
like,
right?
That's insane. That blows my own mind. That would have never happened. But that was like, you know what? I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
Because when I learn how to do it, oh my gosh, I'm going to be more empowered to do so many more things and be creative. So that's a perfect example. And then kind of openly taking responsibilities and failures. And I say openly, meaning publicly, like with the team in front of other people. And then setting high standards for yourself as well as your team.
Yeah.
But make sure that don't just hold them to their high standard. Make sure they hold you to your high standard and you hold yourself to your high standard as well.
Yeah, I mean, really, you're going to fall not just by missing your goals, but to the level of your standards, right?
Good.
If I don't have a solid ground of what matters to me, like with our mission statement, with who we are, when we look at, there's certain clients that we're like, you know what? It's not a fit. Right? So when we look at our standards of where we're going and what it's helps us point to our North Star. It helps us say, you know what, our standards say this really doesn't fall in line with that.
Yeah.
Right? And so that goes with moral standards, with your integrity, with your ownership as an employee, as a business owner. What are your standards? And if I'm setting that bar pretty high, you have a good understanding and you're like on the track to say, yeah, you know what, I got some ownership.
Yeah. And I mean, at the end of the day, mindset, it requires no talent, just effort. And so there's nothing to it but to do it.
Right.
We had an old running backs coach in college. Every game day, man, he would roll through that locker room 20 times. Nothing to it but to do it. There's nothing to it but to do it, boys. Nothing to it but to do it. But it's ingrained. And it's like, man, but mindset does not require talent, just effort. So there's nothing to it but to do it. Hey, that's today. Ownership mindset. Take it to your team. Go own something, like right now. Okay? Possess it, align it with your mission. It's going to change everything, I'm telling you right now. And then teach it to your leaders. But the best way to teach it to your leaders is do it yourself, because people do what they see, not just what they hear. Yep. Thanks for jumping on with us. Mayner Leadership Show. Hey, maybe you need to jump right now. Hey, go to MaynerLeadership.com, click on the 4-day leadership challenge. You'll get an email like that, and you can get started right now diving in to some more mindsets, to more actions, and you'll get a result in 5 minutes after you watch that first video. Thanks for jumping on with us. Challenge your mindset, focus the action.
Thanks, guys.